Boom! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. I'm your host, Alan Sakyan. Very excited to be talking about humor, talking about activism, talking about breaking news, writing, performing, shit stirring, arts, culture, nightlife, all of this cool stuff. We have Stuart Schuffman joining us, aka Broke Ass Stuart.
Hello, how you doing?
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Wait, where am I looking at? Where are we at?
You're gonna be looking at me, I'm just doing the intro and outro and stuff,
Perfect.
and then I'll be looking at cameras. But Stuart, your work has been crazy cool. The last 15 years you've been doing this in the Bay Area since 2004.
Yeah.
So you've seen so much of what's happening.
Yes.
What's happened. Because the Bay Area has turned in many ways into a nuts technological place from more of a arts hippie place.
Sure.
Yeah, and we'll be unpacking this and so much more in the conversation. Again, it's been 15 years. All of Stuart's links are below to go and check out his work. And it's mostly been doing things like writing about activism, humor, breaking news are kind of like the main themes. Mm-hmm. And then, we'll jump into that as we go. I want to know, where did Broke Ass Stuart come from? That's like this whole like being young, broke, and beautiful, knowing how to like get around like with a little bit of money, right?
Sure.
And do lots of different things.
So it started, it's funny, years ago I was working in a candy store in North Beach, a place called Z Chocolato, and it's still there. And somebody from my neighborhood growing up in San Diego came in, and they, this woman who's now his wife, and as they were leaving, she gave me her card. It said she's a travel writer, and I said, I want to be a travel writer. So I just decided to become one. And I made a zine. For those who don't know what a zine is, before there was blogs, there were zines. You could go to Kinko's or some photocopy store and literally physically cut and paste and Xerox, and boom, staple, you have your own publication. So I started off doing Broke Ass Stuart's Guide to Living Cheaply in San Francisco because I was broke and everybody I knew was broke and we needed fun, cheap things to do. So I just made up my little travel zine. And that eventually, I got to do writing for Lonely Planet out of that. And then after that, I was looking for I was like, well, it was cool, but I was doing all the distribution by myself with like my bus pass and my backpack, and my sneakers. And so I was like, well, it's cool to do this thing, but I want to do it on a bigger level. So I found a book deal of all places on Craigslist. And I always say that I was looking for a blowjob, I got a book deal instead, which is kind of true, but not really, kind of. So I did. So then there was became two books. It was Broke Ass Stuart's Guide to Living Cheaply in San Francisco. Then I moved to New York and did a New York book. And then
you did the New York version of the Guide to Living Cheaply. Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah. And then it was like for sale on like Urban Outfitters and stuff like that. And then eventually we'll probably talk about this later, but then I eventually did a TV show in 2011 on IFC, which is a travel show called Young, Broke, and Beautiful. And then a bunch of other adventures, but that's kind of how it all started.
Okay, interesting. So back then you could yourself go and get your own publication published quite easily at a Kinko's. It was hard work.
Well, you didn't get it published; you published it yourself. You just did it.
Self-published, and then you would bring these copies with you in your backpack and distribute them to local businesses.
I was in like 30 stores in the city.
30 stores.
Yeah,
that's great. And how did you find the guide, to living cheaply? How would you find the different locations around the Bay Area that you thought were the right ones to write about?
I would just kind of, friends of friends would talk and tell me what they were up to and stuff they found, and, some internet research as well. Especially when I did it for New York, I did it much more methodically, and I would pick a neighborhood, do a bunch of pre-research, and then go out, find those places I did pre-research on, and then stumble into other cool stuff too along the way.
Okay, so it was like a lot of word of mouth to you, and then as you would go, it would kind of like open doors as you would keep going and exploring.
It was word of mouth. It was like I said, doing research online. I remember back when AOL City Search first was existing, and so I did some research with that when I was doing my first zine, that kind of thing.
That word zine, that brings crazy. Okay, so then the book came from that, then the book in New York came from that too, which is very interesting. Because would you say that the San Francisco and New York ones there was overlap in the Venn diagram, right? Of kind of similar cool things to do for cheap.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, obviously they were different locales,
Yep.
you know, but I mean, the ethos was the same. The ethos was like, you're young, broke, and beautiful, you know, doing the best you can with what you have and having a good life, you know.
That motto, though, that's cool. How did you come up with the motto?
It just popped in my head one day when I woke up.
Yeah.
Or maybe I've been doing some writing some poetry, and it's kind of came something. It just appeared one day.
Yeah.
And now those stickers are all over the world. In fact, I got a sticker for you.
Good. We'd love one. Now, yeah, you're young, broke, and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Those stickers are all over the world now. Like somebody just tagged me in one in Munich, I think.
Oh, whoa.
There's New Orleans, Thailand, Israel, everywhere.
Yeah. The motto itself is it gives you that little bit of, first of all, you are beautiful is very important. Then also, the fact that most people think that they're potentially, broken, that means that there's something that they've done maybe wrong with their life. Mm-hmm. This is kind of reassuring to say that, so many of us are young and broke and beautiful, and like go and find, this is kind of like is inspiring people to find maybe their self-actualization.
Sure. It's like, use it to, as a motivation to help you grind and hustle, Yeah. And like, there's nothing wrong with being broke. There's nothing wrong with being poor. Don't let them tell you any differently. What's wrong is the things that keep us broke and keep us poor. They're out of our control. Like the system of people like Jeff Bezos who don't pay fucking taxes, or Amazon and Netflix not having to pay taxes because they get billionaire tax cuts. So it's not you that's keeping you poor. Sure, you can work hard. We all should work hard to do the best we can, but also systems are keeping us down. So, I mean, there's a difference between being poor and broke too. Mm. Poor is part of a socioeconomic system that, is sometimes inherited, Broke is temporary. It's not forever. Mm. It's not a class, So, I mean, there's differences.
Yeah, that's an important distinguishment right there. Because when you're broke is temporary. Broke is a period of time when there's got to be some sort of like a force as well that comes from within you to want to not be broke anymore. That's something that I think ourselves and so many others have went through, and then also it helps so much to have like a mentor or someone else that can help you maybe with getting those that job that you actually align with, and like helping you get not broke.
And broke's all relative too, It's like in San Francisco, people who make $100,000 a year are broke,
Especially when their rent's like $4,000 a
right.
month.
It's crazy. I mean, I definitely don't make $100,000 a year, not even near that. But I mean, really in the grand scheme of things, even people who think they're rich aren't really actually rich. People don't realize how rich people are, how rich people really are. If you make $1 million a year, you're making over $87,000 a month, or $83,000 a month, regardless. I've never made $83,000 in a year.
Yeah.
And these are the people who get tax breaks. Making $83,000 a month. That's rich.
Yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, that breakdown makes things.
Yeah. Because a lot of people don't think about that. Like, because we use numbers like millions, billions, like we know what they are.
When you break it down per month, you really
right?
realize how. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is, yeah. And it just seems as though no human can actually spend that money and then be happy anyway. There's like, as you climb up this hierarchy of power, influence, and wealth, it just seems as though the happiness levels even decrease, because you have to deal with materialistic possessions, you have to deal with like thousands of people that you potentially employ, you have to deal with you can't tell if somebody's trying to like come at you or your family in some sort of a way that is trying to maybe harm you or harass you.
Sure.
Like so many complicated things come from this, yet we like as culture prop it up as such a distinguishment.
It's funny, we have this weird thing, like everything about our culture from the day you're born, it says buy, consume, right? Like do everything you can to attain this shit. But then if you go into debt to do that, or you are not rich, you go into debt to do this, then society laughs at you for being poor, for working hard, and it discredits you, and you like can get into like trouble for working so hard to do the things that you're told to do by everything around you. It's kind of crazy.
Have you've been seeing a lot of this in the 15 years that you've been in the Bay? And did you see it? Give us a picture in terms of the. I think a lot of the buildings that were initially that are now here on like the Rincon Hill area, all of those massively large new condos, were not here.
No.
Yeah. So tell us about, because that's like a massive jump in inequality. Tell us about kind of where you saw that from 04 until 19 now.
I mean, really, things took off in 2011. Started with the Twitter tax break. You know, all these companies like Twitter and Uber and all these things in the mid-market were threatening to leave the city, and the economy just had fallen apart recently. And I mean, I see how it made sense kind of at the moment, but they just haven't held these companies accountable, and they're getting these big payroll taxes and tax breaks rather, and so they're just helping the rich get richer. And what happened was they gave all these tax breaks to companies who said they were going to create jobs here in San Francisco. And they created a lot of jobs in San Francisco, but those didn't go to the people who lost their jobs in the recession. They imported people for those jobs. So sure, maybe unemployment went down. That's because that person who was unemployed got evicted, or or lost their place and had to move. Sure, people filled those jobs, but they weren't San Franciscans. And we have this huge wealth inequality gap in America, but really in San Francisco, it's out of control. You have people that are making so much freaking money and not being part of the community at all. Like someone like Jack Dorsey, like he's made his wealth off the backs of and horrors and sadness of San Franciscans losing their homes, and abstractly by hey, where your workers going to live? Where somebody else lived before,
Or in the new housing.
In the new housing, but yeah. But even, that's complicated too. I mean, don't get me wrong, we need more housing.
Totally.
But we need to do it ethically and smart and affordably. There's ways you can build housing that are for not just the top. And not only that, there's 100,000 empty units in the Bay Area. And so we need to put a vacancy tax to force these greedy landlords to stop being fucking greedy pricks. And think about more than just themselves and their wallets.
Why are they keeping the units vacant?
I mean, there's a lot of reasons. Some of them are maybe doing an Airbnb or whatever.
Oh, they're doing the Airbnb.
Some of them are that. Some of them are just waiting till the prices go up.
Sure. You speak about this in 2011. You gave us this picture of this is the tough thing. What does a city do? We just saw this with Long Island City, right, with Amazon. What does a city do? This is a very interesting economic and social and political and just growth quandary that society faces at times. You have a Twitter or an Uber that's here on Market Street, and they say that, hey, we need tax break incentives in order for us to keep our rapidly growing company here and bringing all this talent here and building up your local businesses and et cetera here. And so the city usually says okay, and then what kind of economic growth do you see? Versus if you run the simulation, let's say, and they leave, what would happen? And yeah, but then what would happen in terms of what do you think?
We didn't have a problem here. There was no economic problems in San Francisco. We already had a strong tourist industry.
Yes.
We have a huge advertising industry here. We have a huge culinary industry. We didn't need the tech industry. And don't get me wrong, the tech industry was already here. There was already some stuff here.
Totally.
But they don't, fuck you, go to Cleveland. Take your money.
Yeah, and go to an
Detroit.
area that needs it more than,
and so I was in Columbus, Ohio recently, and Columbus was on the short list of possible places where Amazon was going to go. And then I was talking to the tourism people there, and they were really excited. I was like, you shouldn't be excited. You should be worried. Because I've seen this happen. I've seen it happen in Seattle. I've seen it happen in San Francisco. We see it happen in New York. These companies come in, and they're not good neighbors. They don't care about the people who are here. They don't look at this as a place to be part of something. They look at it as a place just to make money, And but they did Long Island City was incredible, because it's like when they promise a stadium or a Super Bowl or the Olympics is going to be good for a city. It's going to bring all this revenue, but it never does. Right? It never does.
How much does the average family that's trying to, feed their kids and get from a massive,
right? I mean,
thing coming to the city.
Even
Like, what did we see from Twitter and Uber and all these other major tech giants coming into the city? What did we see? Maybe we saw some things happen that are a little bit more difficult for us to perceive. Maybe things like the amount of housing units increased, maybe crime potentially decreased, maybe amount of foot traffic at local businesses increased.
So I've got pushback on all three of those points.
Okay.
Crime hasn't changed. They just push it from one neighborhood to the Tenderloin, still the Tenderloin. You know, Soma still Soma. It's done nothing to alleviate homelessness. It's created more homelessness and created less housing. While there's more housing being built, there's also more people to fill that housing. And also, a lot of the housing being built isn't even going to local people. It's getting bought by investment people. And it's just sitting there empty.
From around the world.
Right.
And you can even, I wanted to do an experiment, and you can push back on those other points quick. It's just that, like, I wanted to do an experiment where I took a camera on Treasure Island, and I looked at the San Francisco skyline on a time lapse. And I wanted to see, out of all of those condo windows, I wanted to see how many of them at night actually light up. Because if the percentage is like only 20% of the windows night after night after night are lighting up, and that maybe only 20% of the actual days of the year they're actually in use. What are we doing building all these extra condos for people from around the world to buy as a fourth, sixth house?
I know, and a lot of Chinese investors were calling them safety deposit boxes in the sky.
Interesting.
Because there's just an investment that they'd put some money in and it would go up. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there are things that have been beneficial. There has been a lot more tax revenue for say the city of San Francisco. A lot more money, you know. But I mean.
Yeah, but you know.
Yes,
how
Ronnie.
that works.
Of course.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
when you said nobody makes money off these things that are happening to the city, somebody does.
Yeah, but mostly the people that
Just
are already
not-
making money.
Just not the
It's
middle
not a
and poor
community.
class. Yeah.
Well, you know, the question, you know, when people say, "Oh, it's progress," it's all progress. But the question is, you have to ask who benefits from the progress.
Do the middle and poor ever benefit from a Twitter, Uber, Amazon locating into a metropolis?
I mean, you know, when people were like, "Oh, you know, look at all this foot traffic it'll bring for local businesses," you know what they did? They built their own goddamn cafeterias.
Yeah,
So-
and then they eat there every day.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my question always becomes this:
But then there's also the dry cleaning, or like they
Sure.
purchase sports gear or whatever, like retail, service industry, right? There's tons of other purchases that happen.
I mean, absolutely, there are things that happen, but I mean, you know, we've just seen services built for these people. So if you take an Uber to work every day, right, and then you eat all your meals at work, you wear the T-shirt of your work, right? You take Uber home. Are you ever in San Francisco?
Really, yeah, it doesn't really seem like it. Yeah, you're right.
And you
That's
might go out and spend some money on Saturday night.
Yeah, on maybe you might go to like Tahoe or one of the other cities and spend some in California.
Right.
Yeah.
But even the nightlife stuff, I've seen a lot of bars and clubs and restaurants are getting hit because, well, the restaurants are a whole other thing, but bars and clubs, because people don't go out like they used to. Because you have people that work 80 hours a week and don't have time to spend the money. Plus they're spending $4,000 a month on rent. You know? So I don't think these things are good. They're not good for places like San Francisco. Places like San Francisco, New York, Seattle, LA, where there's already robust industries that are already doing well, we don't need it.
Interesting. So you could even potentially make a case for recommending the massive metropolises to turn away the tech tax breaks and ask the country to say, why don't you move to St. Louis or Birmingham,
Detroit, Buffalo. I mean, there's lots of places that used to have industry that don't anymore, that need industry, and we'll give you all the tax breaks. I mean, a big part of it is that we have all the venture capital firms here, call them vampire capital firms, and like those are the motherfuckers who are also really doing this too. It's a lot of it's, you know, it's really wealthy people that are already rich, that are like playing with dominoes, hoping they can get some more money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I was definitely very closely reading about how the amount of venture money, just, you know, if you look at it from like the early 1990s when it was just starting, was like the biggest funds were like, you know, $20 million funds. Now it's like $100 billion funds. Like, that is a massive jump in terms of venture funding, and again, it's like, where are the unicorns? I want the $1 billion
Right.
unicorns. I want to, it's like it's turned into, where's our humanity?
There's no humanity there. That's the problem. I mean, especially like, it used to be like, for example, the stock market was created so that the average working person could, could get a little bit taste of that money from the company they work. They could buy stocks from their company, or and they could make. But once the stock market and shit like that stopped being for regular people, when it all became beholden to shareholders. It became like these companies stopped caring about the working people who bought stocks in there and cared more about the people who bought 20,000 stocks in that stuff. And so the same kind of thing where it's like it doesn't help the working people at all. It's just the rich people getting rich, and then when you're like, I'm beholden to my shareholders to do this. I'm sorry for polluting your fucking your river. Yeah. The shareholders, bro.
That's the worst. I think one of the worst aspects of capital markets right now that we're rewriting is that shareholder extraction methods. It's a massive perverse incentive system. It's not sharing ownership with workers that well.
Right.
It's not sharing ownership with communities that well. Literally, the people that are buying the services that the workers are making, that they should all get pieces of the puzzle that are building this valuation of this organization. And then these embedded growth obligations as well, egos, as Eric Weinstein pointed out, just like it's disgusting. Like, you have to grow, you have to go from 100 to 1,000 employees, from 1 million to 10 million in revenue. You have to. That's the only way. Like, no, there's other ways.
You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
It's obscene. It's obscene. And it's not good for anybody except for like the people at the top. Yeah. The people who are going to be rich are already rich, and they're just going to get richer. Fuck them.
Well, do you live in the city?
Yes.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
I got rent control, and I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking lucky, man.
All right.
And we're lucky too. We're barely keeping afloat ourselves. And meanwhile, where are these, benefits for artists, entrepreneurs, for people that have lived here for decades? Where are the benefits that help them stay afloat themselves and help them get by and help them creatively flourish?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not coming to me. It's not coming to you.
We're not. So then again, this comes to like this. How do we rewrite some of the ways that we have larger, especially technology corporations, and there's other industries too, like biotechnology is a big one in San Diego and even here in the Bay Area, right? So in finance in New York and stuff, right? So there's these big industries that could do better at potentially not necessarily going from 10 million to 100 million to 1 billion and just like giving the shareholder extraction, right? And they can also focus on rewriting their own, and maybe some of these spiritual practices could help. Some of these meditations and psychedelics and these experiments, when they look at other people's eyes for like minutes at a time so they can see and feel the humanity in them. And then they can figure out, maybe we should recycle some of the things that could help uplift other people. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking big issues here. I mean, a big part of the issue is capitalism, the way it's set up. We're talking, I'm a member of the Battery. I'm an artist.
We like the Battery.
I'm an artist in residence there. I don't pay for my membership.
You're an artist in residence.
Yeah, I'm an artist in residence there.
That's cool.
Right?
Fancy.
Fancy.
I always say
That's a fancy place.
Yeah, I'm a fancy guy.
Look at this. Look at that. Yeah.
Look at this. There's only 2 holes in this jacket, besides the ones that are supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So I always say that the Battery is the only place I feel comfortable leaving my computer unattended, because rich people don't steal from individuals; they steal from communities. It's like this fucking guy, Paul Manafort, got what, like 20 months in jail. The same day, some young black kid got never had any offenses before, got like 5 years or 8 years for stealing a pair of Jordans.
Yeah.
Yeah. But who did he hurt, and who did Paul Manafort hurt? Yeah. So.
Damn, that's a really good example about the.
It's one example of
that's
many.
One of many examples that happens.
It's just coming to the surface now,
Yeah.
Who we are.
Damn.
In these positions, these people of power. Garbage in, garbage out. You got to be careful when you want to be governed. and lead. Just saying.
Well, especially when we let the corporations and the billionaires decide who it is that's doing the leading and doing the governing, because therefore it's no longer for the people; it's for the corporations.
Well, that's who we are, though. I want to pose this question on the both of you. What would you do if you had unlimited resources
I'd
to
do fuck
do
all.
something about? Okay.
Now,
So let's be
if
careful.
I had unlimited resources to do whatever, I'd do a lot of good with that, man.
Bezos, right? Bezos has unlimited resources, but they want to go to Mars. These guys want to go to space.
This fucker should be the first one up against the wall. I'm telling you.
Let's fucking kill them all.
I mean, it's just like Jeff Bezos. That's a disgusting thing that he said. He's like, I see all these things around the world that my money can't fix, so I want to go to Mars instead or whatever. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
You're the richest person that's ever lived. Your money can fix a lot of things.
Interesting. Like, okay, let me see about that question, right? Like, practically, first of all, okay, it's quite nice that there is a quite an ease of access. You know, some people even argue that like this whole, click and have it shipped to you in, 2 days or even less soon is even that beneficial. Like, some people even argue that it's like, no, wouldn't it be better if you got off your ass and went a couple blocks down the street to a local business, looked at someone in the eyes, engaged with them, bought from them?
Yeah, those days are coming to an end.
But even like on like a more basic level than that, how about paying your workers well, letting them unionize? How about not using loopholes so that way you don't pay your fucking taxes?
Yeah.
I mean, these are just basic things. This is just being like literally a citizen. This is being a decent citizen. Pay your fucking taxes, right?
Yeah. There's something very weird about the culture of like them, like wealthy people high-fiving each other based on how much they evaded their taxes.
And here's the thing, they get pats in the back for doing things like philanthropy, right? It's really great that you put your name on a hospital, you gave a lot of money to it, but how about pay your taxes so that way that money can be spent properly and not just what you decide. You shouldn't get pat on the back because the money you give through philanthropy isn't nearly what you should be paying anyways to the state that help take care of everybody instead of your pet project.
Yeah. Now, question then, Stuart, and let me see it. Let me see if I can table that question in my mind for just a moment while I just think about answering what Ron posed, which is, if you did have this extra wealth, what could be like an immediate thing to address? It does seem like a majority of what I, realize that is starting to change the way that people see the world is media and memetics. So if you can really, if some of the things that maybe you could do with that is distribute really high quality short media, maybe only 30 or 60-second clips, maybe 20-minute short films, but things that get people to increase their awareness about how we all evolved here on this rock, how we need to behave more as a unity here on this rock, how we can uplift the baseline for everyone. I think that that's a very valuable investment. So anyway, that would be one of those things. And then also, like you listed, give people the humanity that they deserve, the dignity that they deserve, that are the employees of the organization, that are the communities that you're working with and helping them come up. Okay, question would be, a lot of people also tend to say that, can we actually wrap our minds around which option is empirically proven to be better when you tax individuals and corporations and then distribute that money through government programs and try and see, if you can make education, transportation, infrastructure, those things usually, work well. Other things, like there's been some critique about, welfare systems. There's been some critique about that. Some critique about how well a private corporation could potentially build out a bridge versus a public entity, right? So the argument sometimes is that private sector putting money into building out the advances that society needs could potentially be better. So taking their tax.
Well, let's see how that worked with healthcare. That's the private sector, and that ain't doing well at all. Let's look at prisons. That's a private sector. You shouldn't put prices. You shouldn't turn people into commodities, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. People are like, oh, so-and-so might be a good leader of the country because they're a good business person. This isn't a business. You're not running a business. You're running a country. You have to think about keeping sick people healthy. You have to think about educating people who don't have the access to education that everybody else has. And you can't quantify that in ways that a corporation will take care of, because suddenly who are the shareholders? It's never going to be the poor people. It's never going to be the sick people. You know? It's never going to be like the queer people or the people of color. It's going to be the people at the top. And so you can't, you have to there's ways to make the state better and more transparent and less bureaucracy, but you have to, if we don't believe in our state, what is there? If we can't trust our state to take care of us, and we can't believe that it will take care of us and work towards that, what is there? We just fucking become all Ayn Rand motherfuckers, you know?
How do you feel about artificial intelligence over governance?
I mean, letting just the robots. I mean, the robots got a long way to go, man.
Well, artificial intelligence, not necessarily the robots
Expand,
in general,
please.
but just
Maybe what the question Ron's posing is something along the lines of where as you saw 2004 to 2019, and you saw what happened in that 15-year period.
Right.
We're about to get to 2034, right? That's the next 15-year jump that we're going to see, and there's going to be some insane advances in artificial intelligence and robotics that change our society. Yeah, how do you see that?
Well, we have a major problem on the horizon, and that's the job apocalypse that's coming at us. You have,
they took our jobs.
They took our jobs. They're trying to take all of our jobs, man. I mean, just right now, for example, there's Hoodline is wasting. They've raised $10 million to put journalists out of work forever. They're trying to use AI to write. They're using AI to write articles now. I mean, they're basically Mad Libs. They're Mad Libs that are filling in the blanks, right? So, just with taking truckers and people who drive Uber and Lyft into equation, that's 5 million jobs right there, right? And that's guaranteed in the next 10 years. Both those are gone, right?
And that's across the world is even more,
Right.
Yeah.
And for example, the people who are doing Uber and Lyft right now, for example, both my parents drive for Uber and Lyft. They're older, and my mom is in her she's 65 woman. She's a 65-year-old woman. No one's going to hire her for a job. It sucks. So she can do Uber and Lyft because it's a job that she can actually doesn't have to worry about the hiring, whatever, So what happens to the people that are already on the fringes of employment when those fringe employment jobs don't exist, right? The future needs to be something like a universal basic income. There needs to be UBI to take care of I think there was
Did you hear Rushkoff's argument around universal basic assets?
I don't even know what Rushkoff is.
Douglas Rushkoff, Team Human. We love him, had him on the show. He's a very, very good argument for universal basic assets.
Which is what?
So it'd be like you would gain a percentage of ownership, kind of like a co-op, rather than just an income, right?
A percentage of ownership of what?
Of potentially some of the of what you live in a community, and you're not getting any of the asset ownership, even though you're constantly contributing to the community's success.
Why'd you drop Roshkoff's name when I was the first one that told you about that? Why, I just want to say that. I told you about that. UBI wasn't the way to go. It was more about universal basic shelter, universal basic meal allowance, period. And then you can negotiate your value out in the private sector when you're ready. The money, the dollars, that whole system's changing.
Well, as long as there's something that's taking care of people.
Yeah, they'll give you money, but then they'll raise the rates.
So my
on
question
everything.
So what would the universal basic assets in San Francisco be? Do we all get a piece of Twitter?
So this is a good question that would be much better for someone like Douglas Rushkoff to address. And plus, the funny thing about this is that they're just all tiny little pieces. There's no grand proposal yet, and we need a grand proposal for what's coming.
Well, the issue is that we're fundamentally unprepared for it. When we have a monster in the White House who's a white supremacist, or rather an orange supremacist, who is fucking. There's no way the Republicans are going to let. They're not even letting Medicare for all going to happen, let alone something like UBI or UBA, right? But that's a major problem. There's a study from Oxford that said in the next 25 years, 48% of the current jobs are going to disappear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's 3 people in this room. 1.5 of us ain't going to have jobs.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is major because what do you do? Our government's not set up for that.
Yeah.
what do you do?
Our civilization's not set up.
What are those statistics again out of us three?
There's several organizations that have now said that within the next like around 25 years, by like 2040-ish, that almost 50% of all jobs will be obsolete. But a lot of people counter argue and say that there are going to be, but
Someone has to clean up.
Some of it's true though.
Someone has to clean up after the robots for sure. When the robot malfunctions, someone has to clean up.
Well, but not just that. Also things like there are tons of other positions that open up regarding new jobs that have yet to be conceived of, right? Those are very exciting things.
Not on that scale. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know about that scale either, but another thing that's interesting is like some people argue that there will be lots more massage positions. People will want to get, because robots and dexterity is going to take a really long time, so you can actually potentially open up more,
You think?
You hear that,
It'll
Brooks?
take a while. You think it'll take a while for robots to give you a better massage? We already have them at the airport. You sit down.
You hear that sharper image? You hear that?
You hear that sharper image? Yeah, there's nothing quite like getting the actual rub-in from
What else?
Sure, but honestly,
what else?
the scale of new job creation and also good jobs. That's another thing. Like here's the thing: you have fucking Twitler from the White House, saying oh, he's so proud of his job numbers. These aren't good jobs being created. Like the amount of people driving for Uber and Lyft. There's more of those than there were before, but those aren't good jobs. There's no benefits. There's no health care. There's no retirement. These aren't good jobs, and there's
no ownership like co-op.
Right, and there's no guaranteed money. So sure, there's what are the quality of jobs being created is a question that's not being answered, because just a fucking graph that shows a line that's like this, that's not deep. That doesn't tell you how do I pay my bills with this shitty job,
One of the things that I think is very interesting to take into account is this population of 330 million people versus a population of just 5 million people, right? You look at some Scandinavian countries and you see with a lot less people, it seems to be quite easy to potentially have rates of happiness and flourishing and community that are just really strong for everyone.
Well, when these people lose their job, we can all put them in a meat grinder and just do the great culling, just give them thank you so much, sorry, have faith.
Well, I mean, as to what you're saying, in Finland, there's this thing called startup refugees, and they did this thing where all these people, you have people coming from Syria and places like that into Finland, which has a strong social safety net, right? And they say the more people that come in there, the more it buoys down the social safety net, and what does that mean for our society? So what they did, there's this thing called startup refugees, is really smart. They say, how about we help these people create their own jobs?
Yeah.
So if you come and you're a woodworker, they're going to help you set up your wood shop. That way you're employed, and then you can employ other refugees. So it's actively, instead of being all right, you're here, figure it out, bro. It's hey, let's work together to build something together, and that way you can help people get jobs, and they can help people get jobs, and suddenly the social safety net is once again being put into instead of just taken out of. The problem with this country, the fundamental flaw in our country is that it's a fuck you, get mine mentality. Mm-hmm. It's hey buddy, it's nothing personal, it's just business. It's this cowboy bullshit that's been in part of our thing from the very beginning. And I remember when I was in Japan, right, and the first time I was there, I remember seeing the people wearing the little face masks, and at first I was like, oh, that's they're afraid of getting sick. No, they don't want to get you sick. That's the thing. It's a part of the social contract there is to give enough shit about people around you, right? Here it'd be hey, whatever, fuck you, I'm sick, don't worry, you are too now. It's not my shit, And so that's the ethos of our country is predicated on this. Get yours at all costs, and that's what's going to have to change. We have to change, and what's going to happen is we're going towards some dark shit right now in this country. It may not be guillotines, but who knows? We're going towards some dark shit. And
I really want to comment on the Japan thing. Was super fascinating that they wear that so other people know that they're sick so
they don't breathe on you.
They don't breathe on you. Correct. That's very. That's very community oriented, and that's very it's a really interesting thing that happens there. And then the other thing that you mentioned was this You mentioned before that. What would you mention before that?
I don't know. I talk a lot.
I know you mentioned another really interesting thing right before that.
Everything I say is interesting. Are you kidding me?
What was it right before that?
You know, Alan, that's awful. What kind of fucking interview are you? You should be taking these notes.
It was another really good point. It's okay.
The cowboy shit. Fuck you, get my mentality.
Yeah, it was something. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, but back to Scandinavia and Finland.
And within the social safety net. Oh, the refugee startup refugee.
Startup refugees. Yeah.
So, you know what's really interesting about startup refugee is that if you take your time and slow down and look at the people around you that are on the edge of falling into, a bad place, that if you can help really address every single human that's at that point and help them create their own job, right? Have a one-on-one mentorship, have these programs that help that. I think we would experience a lot less of the social problems that we have. Now the question is, how do you organize that and make that happen? That's something that was the other point. I'm glad that we got there because that's a great one.
So the thing with Finland and Norway and Sweden and Denmark is they have much smaller populations, but they also have a lot fewer resources. Like there's the north of Finland, the north of Norway, you can't grow shit there. We have the entire Midwest. We can grow everything. We have the Central Valley here. We can grow anything year round, right? So we might have more people, but we have a lot more resources. And if we also spend unfathomable amount of money on the military every year. If we took that money away and put that into healthcare and education, right? The kids in Finland, they learn right now, starting in kindergarten, they learn English, Swedish, Finnish, and they learn how to code.
Starting in kindergarten.
Maybe first grade, right?
Yeah.
Here, first of all, we have problems with teaching evolution in some parts of this country. So, the big problem is this: we're the only first world nation, we're only developed nation where religion isn't diminishing, religiosity isn't diminishing, right? And it's getting more intense in certain pockets. I think this backwards idea honestly, the Christian right is a big problem. Fuck y'all. They're a big problem in our country. They're the ones that are doing and perpetrating a lot of this shit that are keeping people uneducated. They're fighting against.
Not all of them. Just
of course, not all of them. Joe.
You can't generalize the Christian. You can't blame the Christians for the KKK and stuff like that.
But it's still bolstering. It's still bolstering rather the idea of the white Christian male. That's the basis of the KKK. Go white Christian male. That's the whole thing. And then don't get me wrong. I'm a Jew. There's plenty of fucked up Jews out there too. So Christians is not all your fault. Plenty of fucked up Muslims, fucked up Buddhists. Any zealot of any kind is a problem, right? If you believe, personally, I can't believe that there's some spooky guy in the sky that's going to fix everything. And I think that if your religion doesn't advocate for community, if your religion doesn't advocate for loving all people however they are, it's a bad religion. Whatever your version of that religion is. And I think if your religion is holding back science and holding back, ecology, it's a bad religion. And I don't care what the religion is. Sorry, Jews who don't agree with me. Sorry, Christians who don't agree with me.
I think that's just the extremity on all sides of religion. All the religions have the same element of ignorance, just as they do enlightened, loving beings.
Sure, but in this country, who's getting put on the bench? Look at what the Koch brothers do.
Those aren't real Christians. That's just they've been infiltrated, and
sure, but it's the ideologies of these Christians that are being put into practice.
No, they're just hiding behind Christianity,
right?
Like the Zionists hide behind Jews.
Sure.
That's a very controversial subject, but
yeah,
I don't blame the Jews for Zionism.
Well, Zionism is an interesting thing because it's obviously fucking fucked up and complicated. And the thing is, I think from the thing with that word is people have multiple definitions of it. I think growing up Jewish, I didn't think of it as a bad word until recently when I realized what it meant specifically. But the problem with that word is so many people have different definitions of it. The idea of Zionism being Israel has to expand and take over all of Palestine is fucked up, and I think the settlements are fucked up. But the idea that Israel exists and has a right to exist, what country doesn't have a right to exist?
Okay, that's enough. We can't talk anymore about this. We're going to get in trouble. They'll shut us down. They'll kill me. They'll make it look like a drug overdose or a suicide, and so that's enough. Let's move on. I get scared.
Couple thoughts. You're doing an independent media outlet, right? We have all of Stuart's links below in the bio. It's Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. The importance of independent media needs to be very seriously understood right now.
Sure.
And because there's a tremendous amount of push for news conglomeration, lobbyist money, fake news. So an independent media outlet, one that doesn't have these external influences causing it to be biased, is more important than ever right now. Will you speak on independent media?
Yeah, well, we're in this weird place where media is as important, especially good media, like well-researched stuff, like good journalism is as important or more important than ever. But its cultural value rises while its financial and economic value decreases.
What do you consider a valuable news source?
Valuable news source?
Yeah, somebody you can trust.
There's tons of them. I mean, everything on a national level to like a local level. I think Mission Local is doing really great work. Where they're reporting on the mission in a way that's very local and very boots on the ground. That's important shit.
Local, the Mission District of San Francisco you're referring to.
Sure,
correct.
But also, I think the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times are also doing some great work as well. Or the Washington Post, whatever. There's people that are doing actual journalism, and like the mechanism and the system that it's set up is broken. The business of media is broken. The business of journalism is broken. And
the attention economics side of things with advertisements.
Well, even just the way that advertisement shit is set up is all fucked up.
Because that entices the clickbaity and really quick news cycle stuff. And
well, you have this thing where like all of a sudden news is not only 24 hours, but now it's every second of the day, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to, so that's a different thing. That's literally, you have to compete. When there was 3 TV channels, right, and you had 3 newspapers in your city, there was only so many sources you could get information from, right? But when you have an infinite possibility of news, these things have to like make crazier headlines and crazier images just to get your attention. But the thing is, like, for example, on my website, if an article gets 1,500 views, to make $1. Like $1 makes 1,500 views, right? That's unsustainable.
Yeah, it's unsustainable. Yeah.
So how do you fix that? I think Hoodline should raise that $10 million to help fix that problem instead of help build robots to write news. I think that we need to invest in the fourth estate. Is that what it's called? The third estate?
The fourth industrial revolution, the fourth revolution of technology.
They called it the fourth estate or the third estate, whatever was what they used to call journalism.
Oh, journalism. Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I got no estates, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, look.
But it's super problematic.
Yeah.
So if the system that's been done for all these years is broken, how do you fix that? You need a new system, right? Right now, we're seeing more things like Patreon. We get like about a quarter of our income every month from Patreon, and that's super helpful because I know that there'll be months where we're broke ass Stuart, and when I say broke ass Stuart, I don't mean me. I mean like the whole organization, because I've got lots of people who do different things, and I pay different, and so it costs like $4,500 a month to run that.
Yeah, exactly.
And we bring in about $1,500 a month from Patreon. Yeah. So there's some months where I only make $1,500, and there's other months where we make $10,000. And how do you do that consistently?
Exactly. Yeah.
So independent media is really important because how can you you can't be bought if nobody's buying.
Yeah.
I'm kind of rambling at this point.
That's these are very important points for people to understand.
We're at 47 too. I forgot to.
I flipped over.
Oh, that's perfect.
I flipped over the timer, Ronnie.
Great.
Yeah, so this is broadcaststewart.com. You guys can check it out. The link's in the bio. And yeah, this is unsustainable. The 1,500 views for $1. Patreon's helping out a bit. This is a good source, Patreon. There's other sorts of ways to do this that have yet to be discovered. Like we talk about Lorenzo de' Medici on our show. the patron of the arts in
Sure.
Florence that gave Michelangelo and Da Vinci their ability to flourish, right?
Sure.
So there's so many of these interesting ways to cycle potentially wealth into artists and entrepreneurs and give them the stability to creatively flourish. And I think that that it's about time for people to understand that these independent people having voices to be able to communicate things is super important for for potentially even for truth to make its way into a more and more of the culture away from the noise. There's so much noise as well with everyone having a voice and talking about whatever they think is important at the time, and it's making it difficult sometimes for science to take a precedence and to push forth with that. Okay, couple other thoughts. This was interesting. In 2015, you ran for mayor of San Francisco.
I did.
Okay. So yeah, tell us about this. This is
Well, it's because I'm shy and not opinionated. Yeah, I ran for mayor. I had no intentions of winning. I wasn't going to win, so that wasn't the issue. But it was an opportunity to kick up dirt, to stir shit up, to get people to pay attention to things that maybe wouldn't have been paid attention before that, you know. And I did a great job of that. And I teamed up. There's two other people running for mayor who we teamed up. Amy Farah-Weiss and Francisco Herrera. We did this thing because we have ranked choice voting.
I liked that ticket, by the way.
It was great.
I just want to say that. I thought all three of you were fantastic. Great idea.
That was Amy Weiss's idea, and it was a great idea.
Amy's been on the show. We need to get Francisco on the show.
Yeah, Francisco was great.
Yeah.
Great dude. So yeah, and collectively we got like over 40% of the vote, you know, which is huge.
Yeah.
For three like dark horse candidates.
Yeah.
And
damn.
You know, I, as a guy who goes by broke ass Stuart, who shouldn't be mayor, I got like 10% of the vote, which is fucking rad. Yeah. Because it was an opportunity to like get to stick up for my city and call out people who need to be called out.
Sure, you should be mayor. Why not?
I don't want to be mayor. That's the only way I could have lost that election is if I had won that election.
We'll go in and stir the shit like you do here on the show. Just go in there and say, "What the Christ is going on here?"
That's one of the things that I'm excited for Democracy 2.0, or the next sort of what we usher in as the next. Nobody that has their ego has had their ego quelled wants to take a position of leadership in terms of like leading other people. They just want to build out the infrastructure that enables everyone to collectively contribute to what we're building here on planet Earth. Not like some top-down mayoral or presidential. That's what I'm seeing more and more of, is that
it's like I don't anybody who wants to be president, I don't trust to be president, you know, that kind of thing. Like,
exactly.
Who the hell wants that fucking job? You got to be an egomaniac, you know. But also, like, I don't want to deal with the bureaucracy either. Like, I just want to do cool shit and like create shit and make cool things and then stir up shit up from the sidelines. I don't want to be an actual politician. It sounds terrible.
There's a much better way to get everyone contributing without the need for like a top-down sort of pressure. And I think the founding fathers of this country, as well as the people around the world, are starting to realize that it's time to update some of the code to be inclusive in terms of building the systems that we want to see, and not a top-down way of seeing them. Ron, can you throw up our simulation again? So, okay, couple quick questions on the way out.
Yes.
Okay. First question. This is simulation, so we must ask you, are we in a simulation?
Maybe. Anything's possible, man. I mean, or what if we're just like, you know, if on a cellular level, a subcellular level, there's like, you know, a nucleus and electrons and protons, and what powers the electrons and protons, you know, maybe this conversation is powering some part of electron. It's in a tiny bit of part of his skin in some giant, you know, who fucking knows? I had this kind of great stone thought the other day that if theoretical physicists are correct and there's an infinite amount of worlds and universes, what if every time we go to sleep, we have these weird dreams, just us like kind of like touching base with our other selves, and that's why everything's so fucking weird?
We love that thought. That one's such a good one. We love thinking about that one.
That one's a good one.
That one's so good. I feel like we also do some of that a little bit during the day. Like at night when you go and dream into it, you it feels like you're definitely going into the parallel universes and experiencing what's happening there. Sometimes it definitely feels like that. But even during the day, you can get little, close your eyes a little bit. You can tap into maybe like, what would it be like if you did this action instead of that action, right? And then you can kind of like simulate what would have happened, that kind of stuff.
I don't know. Anything's possible. I know that I'm not smart enough to know.
Again, one of the most important things is to say that we know nothing. That we be humble AF. Yeah, that's super important. All right. Last question.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most beautiful thing in the world?
My girlfriend. Love. Like that feeling of like just loving somebody and living other people and like letting that grow and create beauty and create good, and looking out for people because of love, and growing within love.
Look at the camera and tell her how much you love her now.
But yeah, I mean, like it sounds cheesy, but like really, love is so dope. It really is. Yeah. It helps you find the good things in yourself.
I love Chinese food.
That's a certain kind of love
nice
too.
That the most beautiful thing in the world is your girlfriend. I'm sure she'll appreciate.
I love Szechuan when you get your mouth all numb. That's my kind of love.
Yeah. That's we hear love a lot on the show, and I think a lot of people like to kind of do a little like escape from the craziness of civilization into love.
Sure.
Like they can just cuddle with their partner and just enjoy something together.
Sure.
And that can be such a profound sense of connection. Yeah. Stuart, what a fucking pleasure, man.
Hey,
this has
thanks
been
for having me.
fun.
Thanks for letting me rant.
This has been super fun. No, this really, really fun, and so many topics covered.
Really. I appreciate that. It'll be interesting to see how much they hate me in the comment section.
Oh my gosh. Seriously, the amount of work that you've seen in the last 15 years and done and experienced, and I hope people can also check out how to be young, broke, and beautiful, and really embody that, and also see some of the these travel guide tips for people, and furthermore, like have these conversations around you. Everyone have these tough conversations. What is the best way to structure our society moving forward? We've had some great conversation on this episode about that. I'm really happy we dived into that. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Give us your thoughts. We'd love to keep building the future with everyone here. Huge shout out to Ron Vargas for producing and directing. We love you very much. Thank you. Guys, support the artists and entrepreneurs that you believe in, right? You have Stuart here, you have Simulation here, right? All our links are below. Stuart's links are below. Like, get supporting of the people that you believe in. Let's catalyze the next entrepreneurs and artists to be more successful. Go and build the future, everyone. Manifest your dreams into the world. We love you very much. Huge thank you for tuning in. You are young, broke, and beautiful. We love you so much. We'll see you soon, everyone. Peace.